me, Vinny again. Now, obviously, I was not able to put my previews and predictions for week 4 of the NFL season. I had the Dolphins winning the game. Unfortunately, I was wrong about that, and the Bengals won. But that's irrelevant to the situation, if I'm being honest here. Why is that? Well, it's simple. Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the then 3-0 Miami Dolphins, had what looked to be possible concussion. Why do I say yet another possible concussion? Well, as we know, last Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills, Tua startled awkwardly and then had a violent whiplash when the back of his head hit the turf. And everyone said, "Oh, head injury, concussion." But he said, "No, no, no, he's okay. It's a back injury. It's a back injury, guys. That's all right. That's all right, guys." Yeah, no. No. And guess what happened? Guess what happened? The same Miami Dolphins played on Thursday night in Cincinnati against the Bengals. And what do you know? What do you know? Tua got sacked, and guess what? It hit his head, and he was stiff for several seconds. He had the fencing response where his forearms jerked up, and his fingers were all mangled and almost like that episode in SpongeBob where his fingers are broken. That's what Tua's hands and fingers looked like. And I was like, oh my God. And they got the stretcher out for him, and they brought him all the way to the hospital. And even though the Bengals won in the end, seeing the game, seeing the response, seeing the final score of this game almost didn't matter to me, if I'm being honest. It didn't. Why? Because thinking about that hit that Tua got and seeing how poor the response was from the Dolphins organization as well as the NFL itself, putting the game itself above the safety of their franchise, the face of their franchise, the person they want to try to build and contend, hopefully many years with, who already had a long injury history back when he was in college at Alabama. And yet they put him out there still. This could get, second concussion syndrome. People have literally died from that if they get a second concussion in like 5 days or less after another concussion. And one could say, oh, he was out already. He's fine. Well, what does he have then? Because he has a concussion. If you're on the concussion, you can't go on a plane back. You're not allowed to do that. He should take the bus. They should get him a bus and ship him down to Miami. And even then, Miami probably getting some of the after effects of Hurricane Ian right now. It's shameful. It's honestly disgusting. I mean, they already never really cared much about the history and impact of helmets of what John Riddell did when he created the plastic helmets. And yes, I do believe John Riddell should be a Hall of Famer. He created it to prevent skull fractures. The only downside is that it didn't reduce the chances of, it reduced it, but it didn't reduce it enough for the impact of concussions and how important it is for the game. That's why we've seen Riddell and Shutt and now Visus that have come out and changed the game with their helmets. Yeah, people can argue if they look ugly or not. Guess what? Safety always comes first. What do they say? Safety first. Okay? Doesn't matter if you're playing games. Doesn't matter if you're doesn't matter. You always wear protection, regardless. That's why there's shoulder pads. That's why there are elbow pads, hip pads, knee pads, and of course the helmet. The helmet, of course, protects your brain, but it can only do so much. That's why now there's padded protection in practices to prevent players from getting injured for concussions. This stuff is more serious now than ever. And a big reason why the NFL has embraced fantasy football, wink boxing creation so much more is because partially because of the concussion lawsuits they've gotten over the years. If I'm really being honest here, yeah, it's because of that pressure. And sure, they're not going to credit the actual person that helped make that possible for them. No, 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 no. We're just going to keep pumping it up and say it's all a kid game when in reality, it's a very, very violent game. And while people can say the league got soft here and there, you still have a lot of very, very serious injuries. Plain and simple. And you're never going to get injury out of the game. It's a violent game. It's been violent since it evolved from rugby. But you have to minimize brain injuries because we've seen the impact that those have on people over time. We've seen cases like Junior Seau and Aaron Hernandez and Mike Webster and Jovan Belcher, who actually is not far from here from West Alabama. I actually just went to his grave a few days ago. It's right by. It's right across from the grave that my friend Tyler died when he was 7, and also my grandpa died in the nearby cemetery. Well, that's where he's buried, and Jovan Belcher is in the nearby cemetery that I can just go to. It's just crazy to think that I'm right by this stuff, and I'm really a part of history. Seeing Jovan Belcher's name there, seeing his grave when he should be alive, after the violent outburst that he had on his girlfriend and then killing himself in front of the team facility, it shows me just how impactful concussions can have on someone's brain. And I worry for Tua's life. Now, what should the Dolphins do? Well, they should fire their entire medical team. It's malpractice, in my opinion. Many other doctors and physicians have said the same thing, that this was medical malpractice. They should not have left him out there. They should not have cleared him this early. And the NFL, too, they deserve a lot of blame as well. When they added the 17th regular season game, they should have also added a second bye week because they did that only one time back in like 1993, 1994, and they never did it again. All the while, we're seeing, games internationally, played in London and Mexico City and now Munich. And I'm really, really happy those being done. And obviously more Thursday night football games. I'm happy we're getting that. But at the same time, we're not compensating that with more bye weeks for these teams. Because people over in Europe, they have more bye weeks for teams. They give like 4 bye weeks for like a 10 game season. Every playoff game, like in Germany, every 2 weeks there's a playoff game. There's players have a lot more rest, whereas for the NFL, there's more games and there's significantly less bye weeks and there's way less leisure time. When these other leagues, yeah, obviously they're not in the same level as the NFL. And hell, even in Canada, the CFL, 9 teams, 18 games, 21 weeks, 3 bye weeks. They got 3 bye weeks, sometimes back to back, depending on the team. And that's a somewhat lower level of play. I don't personally see why the NFL can't adapt this. Why can't they add a second bye week? Help the quality of play. It would also create another week for broadcasters to play games as well. So that would also be really good for them. And, it would be good for the players because they get a bit more rested. And this also allows other players to have a shot. I don't see why they can't do that. They would actually end up getting more money in the end, if we're really being honest. But it's shameful. And if anything else happens with Tua, which I guarantee you it will, I want to see that medicals team absolutely fine to the ground. And the Dolphins have already had a lot of issues with the Brian Flores controversy, with Stephen Ross being suspended for like a month, and now everything going on with Tua right now. It's despicable. It's unfathomable. It's disgusting. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. I want to know what you guys have to think. What do you guys think of the issue involving Tua? Do you think the Dolphins should be punished in any way? What should the league do about this? Are they going to do anything? Are they not going to do anything? Is the PA going to step in and do anything? I don't know. Like, I hate being the Debbie Downer in this at all because I always like to be a very optimistic person, but like, it just feels like nothing's ever going to happen. And that's absolutely terrible to think of as a person seeing just it's just shameful. But that's just my thoughts, guys. See you later. Peace out.